And the one thing I'll say is I have an interesting perspective on leaving. We cannot participate or we can leave. Where do you go?
You're right. Not everyone has a place to go.
Well, no. Say you can go anywhere in the world.
I mean, you can go to Florida. You can
Sure, but if you come to Florida and we don't fight to save it in Florida and we lose the United States to this same concept, which I think there's a significant...
I agree.
A very significant argument that it's already been lost. They're all already working together. And if I'm being really honest, do I think that that's likely? Yeah. But at the same time, if there's anywhere that can be saved, if there's any last shot...
I agree.
Because...
Sure.
So the States turns into Australia. The States turns into, I mean, we literally just had, Canada, all these places. Okay, so where do we go? Fine, I left, I went to Dubai.
El Salvador, but like Samson Mao told me when I interviewed him, he said, yeah, sure, all Bitcoiners can go to El Salvador and then nuke El Salvador and we'll dead.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean...
No, we wouldn't be doing it. But, I mean, theoretically, it's possible.
Right.
It's very hard. You're right. And I think the States is one of our last hopes.
Yeah, I believe that. I think...
And the Second Amendment here is also an important part of it, right?
It is. It's very strong. And so, I think we all hope it doesn't come to that. But if it does, there's that. We have not yet been disarmed. I mean, we won't be disarmed. I live in Florida.
I think the psychological effect of it is enough to deter the government from hurting.
I just posted last night, the timeline of Venezuela, and I circled the disarming of citizens because you saw...
They've done it in Israel now, and they've done it before October 7th. They disarmed a lot of the villages that got massacred during
There you go. So one of our, our lead developer is from Venezuela, and he has already lived through this. And so to hear his perspective is very eye-opening and grounding for me. So I had dinner with him last night, and we're talking, and here's what he thinks is going to happen. And you sure hope that that is not what's happening, but it's hard to tell someone who's already lived through it, no, you're wrong. So there's a timeline. Venezuela went from one of the wealthiest countries in the hemisphere, very successful. I think it was 20 years. And if you look at that timeline
to now.
Yeah, to complete hyperinflation, total communism, just absolute, we're not fleeing to Venezuela. They came here. And now they're all saying, look, listen, wake up. It's happening here. I think it's very ignorant to tell those people, no, you're wrong. Same thing with refugees from China who lived through the color revolution. I have several friends who have had that experience, and they're here, and they're trying to raise the alarm. And unfortunately, there aren't enough people who are willing to...
That's what I do in Israel. That's why I speak up there and tell the Israelis that are willing to listen, and I do that in Hebrew, that, you guys, this is clamping down on you and you're not paying attention. All these new regulations and rules that are being put in place because we have a war now, and it's another excuse, an emergency, under emergency, to put all these new regulations to forbid you from your freedom of speech and your private property. And now there's a biometric database that they're putting together, and then there's a genetic database that they're putting together, and then selling our data to pharma companies. And there's no end to it, and they continue on from 2020. They're in some kind of rally to just sell us off to the highest bidder.
Total control.
Total control. And people are still in Israel. People look at me and say, you're crazy, and I don't give a. They can think whatever they want. But I'll still say it because you're either blind or willfully blind or ignorant.
It's willful ignorance, and it's so frustrating.
And again, it's not like both you and I are trying to despair anyone or show you the doom and gloom. In fact, we're here because we're trying to show you that there's another way out. So what is your message then? Message of hope around that?
Well, Bitcoin is hope as long as we protect Bitcoin, right? And I think the way that we protect anything is to be honest about it. The dishonesty is ultimately what allows them to maintain control.
And when you're saying being honest about it, do you mean honest about Bitcoin or honest in general? Okay.
Everything, right? All of the corruption is enabled, the compliance is enabled by silence. If you are not willing to speak up, you're complying, and a lot of people are still scared to speak up. But if everyone just started being honest about what they think and what they feel and what they're worried, everything, just be honest about everything, so much of this shit would end overnight.
Yes.
The mandates, the regulation, like all of this, if everybody just had the courage to say, I am not okay with this, we could affect so much change.
I'm not okay with a CBDC that is going to program what I can use my money for and when and how much.
Right.
I'm not okay with that.
No.
If only people said that would be really nice for what's coming down. You wrote, defending non-KYC Bitcoin is actually the only thing that matters in Bitcoin right now. Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So this is a hot debate in Bitcoin. Privacy is a hot topic. And I have to admit, I was pretty ignorant to the privacy concerns. I mean, obviously, in some ways, the visibility of Bitcoin transactions is a feature. Because if you're talking global settlements and government funding and all of that, having visibility into all of that, I mean, that's what we want, right? Like, audit it. But when we're talking about our money, it gets a little bit different. And we have to be careful that we don't allow too much surveillance. So one of the things that I had to do when I got my role, because of the way that we are regulated, is I had to do an AML KYC training.
AML is anti-money laundering, for those of you who don't know. KYC is know your customer. It's the identification process.
That's right. And all of these alphabet regulations, I didn't know anything about them, and I didn't want to know, right? Ignorance is bliss, but it's not good. And my concern is the amount of anti-money laundering rules and regulations that have already been applied to the industry, and the fact that when we KYC the sats that we're buying, we're attaching our information to those sats and therefore all future transactions. Now I get a lot of heat for this. People want to say Bitcoin doesn't care, but again, this sort of comes back to you're subject to the rules and regulations of the government that you live under. And those governments are very threatened. And when people feel threatened, they increase their power and they claw at you. And we have to be really careful what we agree to, So all of the on-ramps, I don't know where you buy your Bitcoin. You convert your fiat into Bitcoin, right? Well, in most cases, certainly in the United States, when you're doing that, you're KYCing. And when you're KYCing your Bitcoin, there are ways in the future to obfuscate that, but they've already made some of those ways illegal. And of course, you can do them anyway, but you have to be willing to go to jail if they start enforcing that more significantly. If all of our Bitcoin is KYC'd, then they know everything that we're doing.
Yeah.
And if they make it illegal to sort of un-KYC it.
Yeah, and that's something we should think about, and I think the industry definitely should look at innovating around privacy. And in October last year, Edward Snowden was talking about that in Amsterdam. He was saying, I've been blowing that horn for a long time, and people don't get how critical that is. And I think we're at that point.
We are at that point, and I think a lot of people who have not been subject to the training involved in that surveillance, there's a lot of people, they have no idea that it's going on. And so if you don't know what's happening, it's really hard to be overly concerned about something, right?
Yeah, but I think just by saying that, we raised awareness for the topic, and you should go and do your research.
Go and do your research. AML laws, if you look at a lot of the people that have been put in jail, it's all done under the guise of anti-money laundering. And so they're going to use that for more and more regulation and restriction and,
And obviously we're not calling anyone to break the law.
Absolutely not.
Right? But we're just making people aware of that really, really important topic.
Yeah, we're not doing anything criminal, so we don't want to be labeled criminals.
Exactly. I'm just going to end with one cool question. What would you like to see happen in the world, and how do you think this can happen?
I would like to see more free countries or free regions arise. And I would also like to see, I want to go back to that time period when the internet was early and we interacted with people in real life, I want to go
like
back to that.
Like
yeah, like
physical.
hi. Like the Bitcoin events are so incredible because it's like, it's real. I'm here with you. I can hug you, you know, and we need more of that. We need more like real life, bring community back, you know, bring like real friendships and connections and communities. I think that that's lacking in a lot of people's lives. And
I agree.
It's sad.
We're so addicted to these things, and we don't realize how much it takes over.
Yeah.
So free cities, free communities, free people.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's end on that note. We want freedom.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, Michelle, thank you so much for being who you are, being courageous, speaking up. I love your work. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. You too.
Thank
it's so
you.
important. I'm so glad always to see anyone you're talking to. I'm like, oh, I know this is a good person.
yes, I select them. I handpick them like that. So yeah, it's important for me that my guests will be people that are not compromising truth or freedom for anything else. So yeah, thank you for being that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for also being that too.
Yes. We need more of that.
I know, we
Come
need
on,
more.
people.
How do we recruit them? Like, speak up, everyone.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest ByteFederal ATM and turn your cash to coin. ByteFederal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, ByteFederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.